I invite you to sit comfortably and close your eyes. Now is the perfect time to give yourself time. You didn't allow yourself to stop. So the planets all lined up to force you to. The Earth has been burning out for a while, and it just took a tranquilizer that will make it idle for a while. It will rest, recharge, and force all its inhabitants to do the same. Yes, there are going to be some recalcitrants who don't understand the importance of taking care of the present. But on the one hand, you are very fortunate to be able to participate in this moment of peace. Nature will be reborn, stronger than ever. Animals have found a feeling of freedom. Humans will learn to love and help each other so that they can live better in community. For the moment, your conscious is not aware of all of this, but your unconscious knows it. And my stories are like a coded language that only he can decode and translate to your conscious to make it evolve and draw all the positive from this situation. Take action right away, because in a few seconds, or maybe a few minutes, you will be overwhelmed with positive thoughts, creative urges, constructive emotions. 1940, October 2, 6 p.m. in the middle of the Second World War, somewhere in France. A 15-year-old girl named Sarah is hidden in the attic of her neighbor. Her family was kidnapped a few months ago. Sarah was shopping that day, and when she got home, her neighbor quickly grabbed her to tell her what was going on and hide it. She was scared. She had heard of people being kidnapped, but it had never happened to people she knew, and even less people she loved. Her neighbor had made it her mission to protect her her parents trusted him. So she listened to him, had learned to be quiet when needed, was as discreet as a mouse when she had to. Sometimes she heard outside noises that terrorized her, but at this time, her neighbor was still trying to make her laugh. Because in this complicated period, everyone needed to be positive. After a month confined to this old attic, which seemed years to her, her neighbor managed to change her identity, and she was finally able to be released. Sarah, now Madeleine, could finally live a new life. But with each new step she took, she was afraid of being exposed, betrayed, and kidnapped too. Then her neighbor told her about something he had been doing for years to successfully exteriorize what was keeping him from moving forward. Every evening, he wrote down in a notebook all the emotions he had felt during the day. He listed his fears, his anxieties, his anger, his sadness, and once he was freed from all this negative, he tried to note at least as many or more positive things. It could be very simple things, like I saw the sunshine, my favorite flowers are starting to grow, I could go out without being checked, I laughed with the grocer. Madeleine or Sarah tried the trick of her neighbor without much conviction. But after a few days, she realized that by clearing out all the negative that invaded her daily and focusing on the positive, her life was starting to be even better than she would have ever hoped for. So, maybe you too, starting today, could put this new good habit in place to exteriorize the negative that you felt every day. Maybe by writing it, talking about it, drawing it, so you could leave a space for all the positive things that you have lived day after day. Did you know that positive emotions take up much less space than negative ones? By clearing out a negative emotion, you are making space for thousands of positive emotions. It's so simple when you know it. It's easy to set up this beautiful habit there. It's so easy to put this beautiful habit in place when you know it. Have you ever dreamt into the void. And I'm not talking about a leap into the unknown, although it can be assimilated to it too. No, I'm talking about skydiving. More specifically, the sensations of skydiving. For my 29th birthday, my family and my fiancé bought me a jump. I was super excited, especially since the wait to receive this great gift was long. My birthday is in July, and my jump was in October. So much waiting that allowed so many emotions to mix. First, the joy of having this unusual gift. Then, the excitement of waiting. And finally, the fear of not getting there. Because I don't know if you know, but I think you don't know. I'm extremely afraid of the void. I've been dizzy forever, though I'm doing everything to counter it. Even if this fear is there, I force myself to do things to repulse it. Bungee jumping, hanging in a glass cube, 1352 feet above the ground, in Chicago's Willis Tower, ziplining over a forest, or biking 33 feet above the ground for tree climbing. I love to push my limits. Whatever. All this to tell you that this fear is still present. And this time, it was a clever mix with the fear of the unknown. Because jumping off a plane at an altitude of 2.5 miles is not something I do every day. Finally, once in the air, contained in my little plane with 7 other people, like in a can of sardines, I was no longer laughing. My joy and good humor were gone. The other experienced jumpers tried to relax me without success. I saw them all disappear into the void, one by one. I found myself alone with the woman who was going to jump me up. Then she asked me to get out of the plane. I was paralyzed. It was necessary for me to be completely in the void so that she could properly prepare us to jump. The only thing holding me back now was her harness. My heart was beating wildly. To be honest, I was scared. And in a microsecond, without noticing me anything, we were in the void. We had jumped. Suddenly, all my fears and anxieties disappeared. I think it stayed on the plane. I was released. I was jumping free into the void. The unknown and yet I felt a huge wave of joy, lightness, freedom. I got rid of all the negative emotions that got stuck on the plane, and I was finally ready to enjoy the moment. From this moment of pure happiness, when there was only me, nature, air, freedom, lightness, weightlessness, life, simply. I was no longer in the feelings I had before, on the plane, or at the reception of the gift. I was no longer in my future feelings when I touched the ground and saw the video of that moment. I was here and now to take full advantage of this moment. Since that day, I have learned to detach myself from all the emotion of the past, but also the future, whether negative or positive. I just learned to enjoy the present moment. Imagine yourself suspended in this so short and yet infinite instant. The past is over. Your emotions have stayed there. You have advanced to detach yourself from it. Tomorrow is within your reach, but what you feel is yet to change. Today is different from yesterday, and is different than tomorrow. It's up to you to grab the moment now. Let's talk about this student who had just finished his doctorate after 12 years of hard work. He was single, lived alone, in a 215 square feet studio. He had no friends because his studies had taken him all the time, and over the years he had moved away from his parents. He didn't want to work in hospitals, but in private clinics. Only after several failed interviews, he realized that something was wrong with him, but he couldn't identify what, and no recruiter was honest enough to tell him about it. After more than 6 months of unemployment, going around in his little square, which served as his house, he decided to contact a business coach. Before the interview, he examined his file, but nothing seemed to bother him. His resume was perfectly written. He had all the experience and skills required. It was only after discovering this man, a few days later, that he understood what was wrong. When he entered the office, the surgeon looked completely sloppy. He was dowdy, his hair tousled, and unshaven. When he approached the coach, his smells also was unsatisfactory. The coach asked him to introduce himself, as he had done in his previous interviews, and he analyzed everything that was wrong in a few minutes The surgeon has forgotten himself all these years. He lived only for his profession. He was like a remote control robot. There was nothing human about him anymore. Even his appearance was more like a stray dog than a scientist. The coach's first question was, "Do you like yourself?" The surgeon was completely taken aback. He thought he would be asked questions about his job, but he had never looked into it. The coach continues by simply saying this: "Your job is to help people. To help people, you have to love people. How do you love people when you don't love yourself? How do you help people when you don't help yourself? You have to inspire confidence in your passions. You aspire to evolve in the midst of a wealthy clientele. You must already find yourself." The surgeon left this interview with more questions than he had when he arrived. He returned home more motivated than ever to discover who he was, what made him vibrate, why he had chosen this job, and especially what he liked. After several weeks, confined with himself, a new man was born. I learned a while ago that he set up his own clinic. He found a fiancée who loved him as much as he had learned to love himself. What about you? Did you learn to love yourself? Do you know why spending time with yourself or your family is so complicated? Do they not reflect the things that you cannot bear in your behavior? Imagine that your unconscious had asked the earth and even the whole universe for a well-deserved break, so that you could finally rest, learn to find yourself, to know who you are, to love yourself. Imagine this time of containment as an opportunity, a chance to be alone with yourself, to find yourself, or to share this time with your family, to learn to appreciate you all, to love you all, to find all your qualities. After several weeks, you're a closer family than ever. And if you're alone, you're so proud to have learned to love yourself, to have found who you really were. Starting today, you understand that this containment is a chance for you, a chance for the people around you, a chance for all the inhabitants of this earth, a chance for the earth. Everyone finds perfect rhythm. Everyone has managed to rest, and soon everyone will be able to live stronger than ever. So now that you have learned to take advantage of the present time, now that you have learned to love yourself, now that you have learned to see the qualities of the people around you, now that you have learned to express all the negative in order to keep only the positive. You will be able to come back to reality, stronger and luckier than ever. You are going to come back here and now to the present time and reopen your eyes very slowly to face this containment again with the best tools you had, but which were perfectly well hidden.